Alright, Shalom, y'all. I want to give all praise to Yahweh Hashem Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to the Akim out there spread this truth like wildfire. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners who look like the other nations, but their spirit bears witness that they're the children of Yahweh by Hashem Shai. And shalom to the real sisters out there. Yeah, I'm having to restart this live because Esau gets triggered by the truth. And you know what they do? They either fuck with the live themselves or they put enchantments on it. But it's all good. I'm restarting the live. I'm gonna continue where I left off. Of course, I'm having to look up this verse all over again. The reason I'm using the web app, if you're just... Actually, I may be in luck. I may be good. Because really, there's no such thing as luck. Call all Yahweh Hashem Shai. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. We were even supposed to kill their animals, which really, if you look at it, was a mercy killing, because these devils are vile. And these are the vilest of the vile. You already know Satan doing his thing. And Saul, verse 4, and Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah, which is today's so-called black people. Verse 5, and Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, go, depart, get you down from the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. There's levels to what heathens are worse. They deserve deserve to be treated worse, and which ones deserve to be treated better. And Amalek, they deserve basically the worst. Verse 7, and Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. So basically throughout the whole land, wherever they was at. But we're going to go into what he didn't do. This is a very important detail. Verse 8, and he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, remember that name, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. Verse 9 is where he fucked up. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fatlings and the lambs and all that was good. So they were like, we're gonna get some, we're gonna like, we're not, and all that was good and will not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refused that they destroyed utterly. Even though the fact that these sheep and these oxen and these fatlings and these lambs, they were owned by the Amalekites, the vilest people, the worst of the heathen. Job actually spoke about Esau, Edom, and they're the worst of Esau, Edom. But our people were, but Saul, he wasn't right. He fucked up. And our people were stiff necked, as usual. I'm gonna go check and see if anyone has posted scripture on the cupboard. Con. Y'all, you free to post scripture if one comes to mind. Just saying. And I'm teaching y'all, but it's free. Alright, verse 10. Then came the word of Yahweh unto Samuel, saying, It repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he is turned back from following me, and hath not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto Yahweh all night. So he was like, uh, I'm a, he basically Saul failed him as king. And it was a big fuck up because of what Amalek did to us in the desert when we was in, we were just coming out of Egypt, just attacking us out of nowhere like some cowards. And also all those times we bumped heads, all those times, they're actually our fiercest enemies. So yeah, this was a real big deal. Like, if you have your chance, if someone is like your biggest enemy, biggest pain in the ass, your biggest hater, whatever, basically makes your life a living hell, and you have a chance to get rid of them, you have a chance to solve that problem, and you have a chance to do something about it. Not only that, you have a chance to get rid of them. Or if you have a problem that has always fucked with you, has always made your life hard and shit, and made your life a living hell, basically, the biggest problem you ever had, and you had a chance to solve it, like, once and for all, get rid of it, and you did it. I mean, that is a pretty big fuck up. Verse 12. He saw in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up a place and is gone up. It's like, I'm gonna put it this way, Saul had one shot, basically, like that song by Eminem, even though it was about wickedness, basically. Verse 13, and Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, Blessed be thou of Yahweh, I have performed the commandment of Yahweh. So not only that, he lied. So you know how when you fuck up and you don't want to tell your mom or your dad or both of them, you don't want your parents to know that you fucked up when you're a kid and you do some shit you're gonna get punished for. You don't want them to know. So you lie to them. That actually makes it worse. They find out you're lying, and Yahweh, he sees it all. So he already knew from off the bat that he was lying. And so did Samuel. He told his servant Samuel. And Samuel, verse 14, and Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? So what he was like, what you mean? What you mean you fulfilled the commandment? how come I hear these sheep and these oxen when you supposed to get rid of all of that? And Saul said, verse 15, they have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of oxen to sacrifice unto Yah, the Adonai, Yahweh, thy power, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. So he admitted it, but he was like, well, it's to sacrifice to Yahweh. So it's all good. When Yahweh himself through Samuel told him not to spare none of that. So that don't even make sense in the first place. That was just an excuse. Oh, but we're gonna sacrifice them unto Yahweh. He wouldn't want that sacrifice. He wanted you had one job to get rid of all to slay everything in sight. Get rid of all that shit. Get rid of, I mean, these animals, like I mentioned before, they're probably defiled themselves. You know Amalek. Then Samuel said unto Saul, stay, and I will tell thee what Yahweh has said to me this night. And he said unto him, say on. So he was telling him, hey, well, and Samuel, Saul, I mean, he kind of should already know that he fucked up, so it's not gonna be, you did a good job. You did a good job. I approve of what you did. So he's just waiting on, it's like he's waiting on the punishment, like a punishment, like you waiting on you fucked up and you just waiting on what your parents are gonna do to punish you, basically. That's when you growing up, hey, that's one of the worst feelings. Verse 17, and Samuel said, when thou was little in thine own sight, was thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel, and Yahweh anointed thee king over Israel? And Yahweh sent thee on a journey and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. So basically, you had one job, and I told you exactly how to do it. Verse 19, wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of Yahweh, but didst fly upon a bull, and didst evil in the sight of Yahweh? So I told you exactly how to do it, gave you the instructions and everything to the smallest detail, and you still fucked it up. That's what he's basically saying to him. You still got it wrong. So like you go through the drive-through and you tell the people McDonald's, it's an example of it. Like basically, it's like it can be compared to. It's like this situation. It's like you tell them your order you to the smallest detail, and you make sure that they hear you, and then they still fuck it up. Verse 20. And Saul said unto Samuel, yeah, I have obeyed which Yahweh sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But utterly meaning completely, he did not. That was a lie. So on top of him fucking up, he's lying. Verse 21. But the people took of the spoil sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto Yahweh thy power in Gilgal. So he was like, no, you didn't. You didn't utterly destroy. You didn't do what I said you was gonna do. And it's the same house of Saul, aka the 2/3, that are trying to spare Amalek today, which is, I'm gonna show y'all, it's the Jewish people. Oh, just accept reparations from them. No, they just need to give us reparations, and they're good. Verse 22, Yahweh said, utterly destroy, not accept reparations from them. He said, repent and utterly destroy, And Samuel said, had Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Like, you could have just did what I said, bruh. You could have just did what I said, son. You didn't have to. You're doing too much. You could have just did what I said. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. But of course, sir, people always want to overcomplicate things. And it was real simple. It was real cut and dry, like it always is. My yoke is easy. Verse 23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, he hath also rejected thee from being king. So rebellion, not doing what Yahweh says, is as the sin of witchcraft. It's basically considered on the same level as consulting demons, the left-hand side. You're not listening to him, you might as well listen to the left-hand side. And that's actually what he ends up doing. And he ends up consulting a witch, and waking up Samuel, and he really gets cursed out then. And stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. You're not, so you being hard headed, stiff necked towards Yahweh and following your own will, what you want to do, your own agenda, basically. So also self-serving. Therefore, that's how it's as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, he had also rejected thee from being king. So it was like you're fired. It's actually lasting longer than it would usually last. My life is staying online longer than longer than it would usually do, and I'm having like I'm having more time to go into shit with go into this word, so like, which all praise to you. How about Shimmy Al Shai for that? I'm kind of more energetic too. All praise to you. How about Shimmy Al Shai for that? Verse 24, and Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of Yahweh and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. So he was like, alright, I fucked up. You got me. I went off. But this is why, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Well, shouldn't have done that. People didn't make you king. Yahweh did. Now therefore I pray thee pardon my sin and turn again with me, that I may worship Yahweh. Well, we're going to see the answer to that. And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee, because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, and Yahweh had rejected thee from being king over Israel. So he was like, nah, like, you no longer work for the company. You've been terminated, bro. Verse 27, and as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold of the skirt of his mantle, and it rent. 28, and Samuel said unto him, Yahweh had rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day, and had given it to a neighbor of thine that is better than thou. Not only you been fired, I already got a replacement for you. no repent, for he is not a man that he should repent. So he's not. So there's no. He ain't gonna rehire you. You know. That's it. On to the on to the on to the next candidate. Like Yahweh already made up his mind. Shit was already predestined to go that route anyways, but you know, so Saul had to fuck up for David to get up in there. But we're still dealing with the consequences of Saul's fuck up. Like we're still dealing with those consequences to this day. Verse 30, then, which that's a part of the movie too. Then he said, I have sinned. This is all scripted. Yet honor me. Now I'm reading the script right now. I pray thee before the elders of my people and before Israel, and turn again with me, that I may worship Yahweh thy power. So he was like, come on, give me another chance. I'm gonna do it right this time. But he should have done it the first time. So Samuel turned again after Saul, and Saul worshipped Yahweh. He was begging him for his position back. But the Yahweh, he gives his word out, no takebacks. Then he said, Samuel, bring ye hither to me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. Again, remember that name. And Agag came unto him delicately. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. And Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. Begging for his life, basically. Call Yahweh Shem Yahushai, this life is still on. And Samuel said, as thy sword hath made women childless, so that shall thy mother be childless among women. And Saul hewed, and Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before Yahweh in Gilgal. So Saul wasn't willing to do it. So Samuel was like, give him to me. I'm gonna take care of him. Verse 34, then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house to Gibeah of Saul. Alright, so you know how I told y'all to remember Agag, that name? I'm going to go into the story of Esther and Haman. Now this shit want to slow down. Alright. Esther 3 verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. Remember how I told you to remember that name? And here's how what Saul did came to bite us in the ass back, and that this is the one of the times it came to bite us in the ass. I want to give all praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Spirit beareth witness that they're the children of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And shalom to the real sisters out there. Where if I'm not on this, if I'm not on this tab, if I'm on another tab for too long, then they take my shit down. They take it offline. And that's just how Satan hinders his word. So I gotta come back here and restart it. I gotta come back here before. I gotta beat it to it. And I probably didn't see y'all's comments on here, but if y'all posted it, because I was trying to go into as much as possible. So if you post a comment on here, like, or be like Shalom, bear with me. Because if I'm not on this tab, I can't see it. It's not because I'm ignoring you. Weird. So this time I'm having to look it back up. So Yahweh Bashim Yahushai basically gave me some time to bring it out. Where it was basically running smooth, and then now I'm having to restart. Same time, you gotta have that balance, I guess. But you gotta have that balance. And then Satan gotta do his thing to hinder. It's really Yahweh, he's a man of war. He likes a good fight. And once you to fight to fight to fight for him. Amalek is also mentioned in Psalms 83 verse 7. Psalms 83, when it talks about the conspiracies. Oh, I know there's way more than this. Why are they playing with me for? Okay. Maybe I should look up Agagite. Yeah, Esther 3 verse 1. And after these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advance him and set his seat above all the princes that were with them. Verse 2, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning them. So he promoted this Agagite. Remember who Agag is. And advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. So Amalek was like the first of the nations again. Verse 2, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning them. So all of them, all the king's servants. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did he reverence. We're going to see why. Verse 3, then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Verse 4, now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew. He was a Judite. Well, he's from the kingdom of Judah, because it also Benjamites and Levites can kind of be considered Judites, since they're from the kingdom of Judah. But literally, the most literal definition of a Jew or a Judite is you're from the tribe of Judah. But he was a Judite, because Esther, I think she was from the tribe of Benjamin. So Mordecai, being her cousin, would be from Benjamin too. So he told him he was a Jew. He ain't bound to no man, especially no Amalekite. Come on now. Verse 4. Let me just view the chapter. So I could just full of wrath. And that's the type of wrath, by the way, that these so-called Jews, who are really Amalek, I'm actually coming close to that part where I'm gonna go into that. That they felt that wrath when Desean Jackson brought it out. When we bring it out, when we was backing up Desean Jackson, they felt that wrath. But what did Desean Jackson end up doing? He ended up caving. He ended up bowing, doing him reverence. Or they had showed him the people of Mordecai wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. So he was like, okay, these Jakes won't bow to me. They won't acknowledge my supremacy. So he was like, I'm gonna destroy all of them. I'm gonna annihilate all of them. These Jakes won't acknowledge me, a so-called white man, supremacy over them. They're bucking up. That's basically what he was why he was mad and why he wanted to annihilate us, just like they want to annihilate us. Verse 7, in the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year. This is really the mindset of Esau, Edom, especially Amalek. In the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. Verse 8, and Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of the kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all the people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. Among the people, there's these people, these niggas, these thugs. Basically, Esau calls us thugs today. These savages, the other, they're different from us. They're a threat. Laws are diverse from all people, and they're a threat because they won't bow to me. Basically, they're uppity, and their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. So they're thugs, he was saying. Therefore, they're criminals. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. He was demonizing us. Verse 9, if it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. And what did the king do? And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Amalekite, descendant of King Agag, Amalekite, the Jews' enemy. Verse 11, and the king said unto Haman, the silver is given unto thee, the people also to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Let me check and see if there's anything on the board. Also, this makes sure that my life stays up. Because remember what life is still up, but which means all praises to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh in the Hebrew. Yeah. Alright. Call Yahweh Shai stayed up this time. Verse 12. Then were the king's scribes called on according to all and had commanded unto the king's lieutenants and unto the governors that were over every province and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after the language, as in the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring. Fucking Satan. Verse 13. Oh, something else that I want to mention is that this order was issued out in the name of King Ahasuerus. So we pray in the name of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Well, we pray to Yahweh and then B'Shem Yahweh Shai. For him to sign off on what we're asking him to do. Is the name is very important. This even shows that from the name of a Elamite Persian king matters when it comes to. Well, that's like it matters and makes something official, like has some weight behind it. How much more the name of the Most High and His Son. Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, and the spoil of them for prey. Verse 14. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. Verse 15. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was perplexed. So they were about to commit genocide against the people of Yahweh. Verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry. Verse 2. And came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gates clothed with sackcloth. Verse 3. And in every province wheresoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Judites, and fasting. I want you to think of the Judite whenever I read Jude. That's what it means. And weeping and wailing, and many laid in sackcloth and ashes. They were crying out to Yahweh. Verse 4. So just like we cry out to Yahweh by Shemiel Shai. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, because she was an Israelite. And she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. He was like, my people are about to be murdered. You know, he was in mourning. Verse 5. Then called Esther for Hataj, one of the king's chamberlains, he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. Verse 6. So Hataj went forth to Mordecai into the street of the city which was before the king's gate. Verse 7. And Mordecai told him of all that happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Judites, to destroy them. Verse 8. And he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare unto her, and to charge her that she should go to the king to make supplication unto him, to make request before him for her people. Verse 9. And Hataj came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Verse 10. Again Esther spake unto Hataj, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. This is when, like, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whatsoever, whether man or woman, shall come into the court, shall come into the king, into inner court, who is now called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not called to come into the king these 30 days. Verse 12. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Verse 13. And Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not that with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. You're Israelite too. She was like, you're Israelite too. You're subject to this order, to this unrighteous decree law. Verse 14. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall the enlargement and deliverance rise to the Jews from another place, but thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knows whether thou come to the kingdom for such a time like this. So he was like, hey, that was why you got to this position in the first place. Verse 15. And Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Verse 16. Go gather to all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, not a day. I also and my maidens will fast there likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. So if I die, I die. This man, she willing to risk that. That's very honorable. It's a very honorable thing that she did. That's a woman of valor. Esther's a woman of valor. Let me look to where it goes into Haman. Haman, where he's from and all that. And we know the story. He basically invites Esther. And he tries to hang Mordecai and all that. Like goes into it. Yeah, Esther the queen didn't let no man the king come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself and Tamar invited unto her also with the king. Yeah, but he's still triggered by Mordecai. Verse 13. Yet all this availed me nothing so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. He was hurt. Verse 14. Then said Sheresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon, that thou go merrily with the king unto the banquet. The thing plays unto the banquet. Then the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. But we're gonna see what happens with those gallows too. It's a very important part. You may be thinking, why is he going into Esther? Because this has to do a lot with the history of Amalek. I'm trying to keep it short, but it's a lot to go into. Oh, yeah. I'm getting into it, but I want to bring this out. Esther chapter 6, verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records for the chronicles, and they were read before the king. So, verse 2. And it was found written, so Yahweh was keeping them up. And it was found written that Mordecai had told Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who had sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. So he had his back. So verse 3, and the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. So, like, he had his back, he saved his life, but he didn't do nothing for him. So the king, it got to him. Verse 4, and the king said, who was in the court? Now, like, he thought he was like, damn, I didn't do nothing for this man. Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that had prepared for him. Then he heard about that. And the king, verse 5, and the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standing in the court. And the king said, let him come in. Right at that moment. Verse 6, see how the Most High works. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, so he was proud as devil, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? Verse 7, then Haman answered the king, for the man who the king delighted to honor. Verse 8, this all came to bite him in the ass. Let the royal apparel be bought, which the king used to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. Verse 9, and let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes. No, none noble about that devil, that they may array the man withal, whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback throughout the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Verse 10, then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. So he was like, ah, shit. So now Mordecai is going to get to stun on him. He's going to get to ride around and horseback and all that apparel on him, all decked out. Yeah, Haman was hurt. Verse 11, then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback throughout the street of the city and proclaimed before him, this shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. He was probably like, this fucking Jew. You know how they say this fucking nigga to this day. They like Esau be like this fucking nigga. Well, they were saying Jew was like that back then. He was probably like that. Verse 11, then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback throughout the street of the city and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Verse 12, and Mordecai came again to the king's gate. So he was trying to do backfired on his ass basically. But Haman hastened to his house mourning and having his head covered. He was like, ah, fuck. He was hurt. And he was embarrassed. It's like, damn. Verse 13, and Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews before whom thou hast begun to fall, then thou shalt not prevail against him, but he shall surely fall before him. So it was like, hey, you can't stop this man. You can't do nothing against him. He's a Judite. He's a Judite. They knew about her power. They at least had some type of respect for her power back then. Verse 14, and while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. So then he was gonna be before a queen who was actually a Judite. Verse 11, so the king, I'm just going to keep going. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. So I didn't even know it was coming right after. I didn't know. I just felt I had to go into that. That's a spirit. Call halal Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai B'Shem Kakadash. Verse 2, and the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine. Hold up. Where is thy petition, Queen Esther, and it shall be granted thee? Meanwhile, mind you, he had been invited to this banquet before, so he thought nothing of it. The devil thought nothing of it. And it shall be granted thee. Hey. So, yeah, man. Now, he thought none of it. He was lured into a false security. Hey, that's Jake. That's Jake. Jake. Well, that's Eve, our female counterpart. He got set up. She set him up. She finessed him, basically. And it shall be granted thee in what is thy request, and it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom. Verse 3, then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition and my people my request. Verse 4, for we are sold, I and my people, to be slain, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I held my tongue, although the enemy could not contravail the king's damage. Verse 5, then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he, and where is he that he durst presume in his heart to do so? And that was his queen. So that was his wife, that was his woman. So he was pissed. Verse 6, and Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Verse 7, and the king arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Verse 8, then the king returned out of the palace garden into the palace of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed where Esther was. Then said the king, will you also force the queen also before me in the house? Like, was he gonna rape the queen? That's what he thought. And as the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Verse 9, and Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, whom he had spoken good for the king, stands in the house of Haman. And the king said, hang him thereon. So that's the example. Let the wicked fall into their own nets. Verse 10. That's actually literally what is happening here. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Let's go into what else happened. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews' enemy unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told him what he was unto her. Verse 2, and the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So trading places, role reversal. Esau had that position first, now Jake had it after. A picture of what's to come. Verse 3, and Esther spake yet, a glimpse of what was to come, basically. And Esther, and Esther spake yet before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews, the Judites. Verse 4, then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king. Verse 5, and said, if it please the king, and if I had found favor in his sight, and the thing seemed right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he rose to destroy the Jew, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. Verse 6, and for how can I endure to see the evil that shall come upon my people, or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Verse 7, the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Verse 8, write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring, with the right for the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Verse 9, then were she had to issue a whole other order. Then were the king's scribes called at the time in the 3rd month, that is the month Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews and to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of the provinces which are from India to Ethiopia, and 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, unto the Jews according to their writing and according to their language. Verse 10, and he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post on horseback by posts on horseback and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries. Verse 11, wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. That's also a picture of what's happening, because Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, he's going to raise that standard and when the enemy shall come in like a flood. Not what the NFAC is doing, but this is a whole different situation, so it calls for a whole different response. It's a way more advanced technology in the hands of the enemy. Verse 12, which is Esau Edom himself, the people of Haman, upon, namely Amalek, the tribe that Haman came from, upon one day, and all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, verse 13. So there's like a whole, there's a holy day that's celebrated in honor of this. Verse 13, the copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all the people, and that the Jews should be ready in this day to avenge themselves on their enemies. It is good with Yahweh. It is good with Yahweh and his son Yahweh Shai to recompense or avenge tribulation unto them that trouble thee. Verse 14, so the post that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. Verse 15, and Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with the great crown of gold, and with the garment of fine linen and purple, and the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. So when the righteous rule, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice. Verse 16, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. Verse 17, and in every province and in every city wheresoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. They try to emulate them now. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar. Hold up, let me check and see if there's any comments that have been left. If any brothers had anything to say. Oh, they're saying that I'm missing a valid API key, Saladia. Man, these devils ain't shit. My life is still going up. They're saying I don't have valid credentials. Shut the fuck up, Esau. Truth, and they say that this truth ain't valid. It ain't legit. It's a conspiracy. I have the valid credentials given to me by Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai to bring out this truth. Because he gave me this truth, he woke me up to it. Kahala Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, and put the spirit on me to bring this out. Kahala Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Esther chapter 9 verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same were in the king when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews that ruled over them, they hated them. Isaiah 13, his captives they were ruled over. Isaiah 14 verse 1 right there. Captives, we gonna have them captives whose captives we were and rule over our oppressors. There you go. There you go. This is like a glimpse of what's about to happen. Verse 2, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus to lay hand on such that sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell on all people, fell upon all people. Verse 13, and all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and the officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. Verse 4, for Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Verse 5, thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would do to those that hated them. Verse 6, and in Shushan the palace the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men. Verse 7, in part Sandatha and Dalphon and Asphatha. Verse 8, in Poratha and Adalia and Aradatha. Verse 9, in Parmashta and Arasai and Aradai and Vajezatha. Verse 10, the 10 sons of Haman the son of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil they laid they not their hand. So even the sons of this devil, yeah. They're all devils. They're all the wicked. Amalek. Agag was a king of the Amalekites, the last one. So that's how you know. Verse 11, on that day the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. Verse 12, and the king said unto Esther, the Jews had slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan. We was putting in work, giving them the work, the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy position? And it shall be petition, and it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Verse 13, then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow, also according to this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. Verse 14, the king's commanded day also the month 8 slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. Verse 16, but the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from the enemies, and slew the foes 75,000, but laid not their hand on the prey. Verse 17, on the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feast and gladness. Verse 8, but the Jews that were at Shushan assembled themselves together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same day they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Verse 9, therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. So a righteous holy day, sending gifts to each other. When we should really be sending gifts. Verse 20, and Mordecai Jews that were all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both nigh and far. Verse 21, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly. Verse 22, these were celebrities in their time. They were celebrities that actually cared about our people, unlike the celebrities of today. Did not cave. Desean Jackson actually shouted Desean Jackson out. He was right. So some celebrities are getting in that spirit where, like, they no longer afraid to expose the truth. because the mirth of the land is gone. So their role, like as being the basically the jesters and shit, the minstrels and all that, the gladiators is basically it's waiting. Basically, and people are waking up. Our people are waking up to the truth anyway. So a lot these celebrities, some of them they're actually starting to, you know, they're getting in that spirit, to want to come out with the truth. Yeah, to establish this among them that they should keep the 14th day of a month of Adar and the 15th day of the same year. Hold on, I can. Deal with the infection. All right, back. And the Jews, okay, in the days, yeah. Verse 22, in the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, in the month which was turned from them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. Verse 23, and the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them. Verse 24, because Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the Amalekite, the enemy of all the Jews, his King Agag, he was a descendant of King Agag of Amalek, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pure, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. Verse 25, but when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked devices, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Verse 26, wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, so that's the holiday where you send gifts to each other and all that. What they tell you to do on Christmas, which is really a pagan holiday if you look into it. You're supposed to do on Purim, after the name of Purim. I think Hanukkah too. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, it's really Chanukah. Chanukah too, you're supposed to do that too. We have holy days and they are lit. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they have seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, verse 27, the Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seeds and upon all that such as join themselves unto them, so it shall not fail, that they will keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year. Verse 28, that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, memorial of them perish from their seed. So we supposed to always celebrate that. Like, that's like a commandment. Verse 20, that is a commandment. Verse 29, and Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. Verse 30, then he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus with words of peace and truth. Verse 31, to confirm these days of Purim and their times appointed, according to as Mordecai the Jew, Esther the queen, had enjoyed them, and they had decreed for themselves and for the seed the matters of the fastings and the crying. Esther's actual name is Hadassah. That's her actual name. Verse 32, and the decree of Esther confirming these matters of Purim was written in the book. Okay, let me see if it goes into more into where Haman comes from. Or no. Let me see. And the king Ahasuerus, chapter 10, verse 1, the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea. Verse 2, and all the acts of his power, of his might, and the declaration of greatness of Mordecai unto the king advanced them. Are they not written in the books of the chronicles of the king of Media and Persia? Verse 3, for Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, sending peace to all seed. Okay, let me see if that's it, or okay, that's it. So let me go into part of Bible, a book the Bible known as the Apocrypha. This is Esther. This book of Esther had additions to it. That's not the complete book. There's more to it. Apocrypha. Let me see if I can get the Apocrypha. Maybe I have to use the app instead. I may have to use the app instead. Let me see if it's working right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it this way instead. Yeah, except I'm gonna get the whole verse. The whole chapter. This is where you get the details that Esau Edom don't want you to know. Which is why it's called the Apocrypha. It has to do something. I think it has to do something with like getting through some like that. Something that's hidden. Hidden books. Hidden. Something about that. think it goes into, it's Greek for like, it has to do with it being hidden or something. And there's a reason why these devils hide this from us. They took it out, the original King James version. They took it out. Only the King James KJV 1611 has it, and that there's a reason for that. Because these devils took it out, Biblical Destruction Group, as the apostles and elders referred to them as. So the great king, this is what the king of Ahasuerus, his name was also called Xerxes. This is what the king had to say about them. Unto the princes and governors of 107 and 20 provinces from India unto Ethiopia, and unto all our faithful subjects, greeting. Verse 2. Many the more oft they are honored with the great bounty of the gracious princes, the more proud they are waxing. Verse 3. And endeavor to hurt not also against those that do them good. Verse 4. And take not only thankfulness away from all men, from among men, to lift up with the glorious words of lewd persons that were never good. They think to escape the justice of Yahweh, that seeth all things and hateth evil. See, the kings, the heathen kings back then, they knew about our power. They knew about our power and they respect them. Verse 5. Oftentimes also fair speech of those. So he speaketh the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, yet were they drawn swords. They wet their tongue like a sword. He's speaking about the same wicked, also known as Esau, Edom. Oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affair had caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and had enwrapped them in remedies calamities. Beginning, verse 6, beginning with the falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition, the innocency and goodness of princes, they use their position to their advantage. Verse 7, now ye may see this as we have declared not so much by ancient histories as ye may, if ye search what is to only give all praise